children in the diversity visa lottery application. Number one, who is a child? So that we find out a person qualifies to be a child in the context of the diversity visa lottery application. Because some don't qualify. Even if someone is 50 years old, has a father, has a mother, so is their child. But you are not qualifying to be a child in the DV lottery. So not because this is my child. Yes, I'm a child to, if I go to my mother, I'm a child. But if my mother applies, it's not going to add me because I have passed the certain requirements, which are, make sure that I'm not going to be qualifying. So who is a child in the DV lottery? So there are qualifications. Number one qualification for someone to be a child has to be a biological child. All living natural children. When they say natural children, they refer to biological child. Number two, adopted children. And the key word here is all living legally adopted child. If you go there and add a child who is a son or a daughter of your brother, your nephew, whatever, and because I've been helping this, paying for school fees, you haven't adopted. You needed to have court documentation to prove that you are legally, you have legally adopted that person. That's number two. Number three, it has to be a stepchild. Stepchild, who is a stepchild? A stepchild, number one, a stepchild must be, you must be legally married to a person who has a child. So you become a stepfather or a stepmother. Not a child of your boyfriend, not a child of your girlfriend. No. Not a child of a person you are engaged to. The child of a person you are married to. That is your stepchild. And then there is the issue of age. That person must be under the age of 21. If you put the age on the DV lottery, the age of dependent, if it is already past the age of it reaches 21, it will say this person doesn't qualify. So, the age by default, it has to be under the age of 21. But the other component is unmarried. Under the age of 21, unmarried. So if you are 20 years old, you are married, you are not a child, according to the DV lottery instructions. Meaning, let's say I have 3 children. One is 15, one is 20, one is 22. So the one who is 20 is married. So the 22, I don't have a child. I don't count that child in the DV lottery. And another part is, I don't count a child who is married. Is 20, is under the age of 21, but is married. So I'm not counting that one. So I'll say I have one child who is 15, because the other one is married. That's how it is. But if, let's say, you have a child, let's say is 20 years old, and that child has a child, but is not married, you are allowed to add that child. So you have a daughter, you have a son who has a child, but is not married. You add that child, like your child, not the grandchild. So let's say I have a child who is 20 years old. I'll add my child. But that child has a child that I have a grandson, I have a granddaughter. I'm not going to add that one. There is one person, by mistake, what they did is the father applied, had a daughter who was 19 years old. That daughter has a daughter. So they put the daughter and they put the granddaughter. And they won. When they went to the US Embassy, oh, this is your granddaughter is not your, so you lied that this is your child. We don't say put your grandchildren here. So the person was denied the visa. That is the mistake people are doing. Married children or children who are already at the age of 21 and above are not eligible in the program to be children. They can apply on their own as many applicants, but they are not allowed to apply as to be included as dependent. But what if a child is the age of 20? Maybe 1 week before the birthday to become 21. You are allowed to add that child. But when the results are out, the child is already 21. There is no punishment. The child will still be considered as 20, even if he's 21, because he became or she became 21 after the application. So there'll be no problem. However, the Child Status Protection Act protects children from aging out in certain circumstances. For instance, if you submit a DV lottery, DV entry, before your unmarried child turns 21, 20, and it becomes 21 before the visa insurance, it is possible that he or she may be treated as though he was just under the age of 21 for the visa processing purposes. Will continue to be considered as 20 in the visa. They're not going to punish the person because on the application he was 20 years old. But what if you have a child who is under the age of 21, unmarried, but that child is, let's say, already a citizen. That child was born in America, is a citizen. Or that child is a permanent resident already. That means you don't need to add that child. You will not be penalized. If a child who is already a US citizen or permanent resident, when you submit your DV entry, you will not be required or to be issued the DV visa. You will not be penalized for either including or omitting that family member. So don't add the family member because that child doesn't need to have a card again to get another green card while he's already a green card holder or is a US citizen. So failure to list your children who are eligible or listing someone who is not your child, you will be denied. I don't mean that, let's say you apply today, your spouse or yourself, you are applying today, you are a woman applying today, you are pregnant. Obviously, it's zero, you don't have a child yet. Because what is the date of the birth of the child? You don't have. Place of birth, you don't have. What is the photo of the child? You don't have. So for that case, you don't have. But if a child is born after the day of application, it is a must to include that child. It is a must. No exception. You have to add that child. And by adding, it means just all the details plus the photo. The photo of the applicant must be there. And remember, when we talk about the photos, we mean the qualification of the photo of the main applicant must be also the qualifications for the dependent. Don't go and take a very nice photo of you as the main applicant and take a bad photo of your child. No. And we will talk about the photo, but even if a child is 1 day old, the photo must be taken. That is the important. That is a requirement to add your child. But don't add a person who is not your child. It's not allowed because you might win and you might be denied the visa. Marriage certificate, marital status and children are the number big, and apart from qualification for education, are the other reason why many people denied the visa despite of winning when they go to the interview, because they failed to establish that these are my children or this is a legitimate marriage. So be careful what you add here.